What's up, bikers? I'm Johnny Thompson from Fit for Racing, and today I'm going to talk about plant-based diets for performance for riders just like you.
Turn it up. Oh, go.
So recently there's been loads of information out there about plant-based diets, probably spurred on by the Netflix documentary Game Changers, where there's lots of science, pseudoscience, common opinion, or things that can be disputed by meat eaters. So it's created two camps really, and a lot of information on either one to prove or disprove the other, which has created a dangerous environment to understand what you need as an athlete. So Game Changers has obviously brought together an entertainment documentary so that then you'll be emotionally affected by it, which is ultimately what you want to do with entertainment. And within that, they've got nice diagrams about the science that proves how a vegan diet is better for you as an athlete. Now, what that has done has perpetuated more extreme arguments against, because it's a personal attack on people's choice to eat meat, particularly around performance. So historically, if you're a vegan, then you do that either to save animals or save the planet, which is very external, so your motivations are an external motivation. But now, because it's a personal attack on people's choices around the foods that they eat, they get aggressive, defensive about it, and then they go out and they find the science to disprove the science that proved that it was good for you. And as a lot of people know, that it only takes one science paper to be produced as fact, even though there could be 1,000 other papers to say that it isn't good. One can then be published, and then you can use that in, say, a documentary like Netflix has. I'm not saying that's what happened. I haven't done the research to be able to comment on that, but I have spent time on a plant-based diet. So for me to qualify to have an opinion, I thought it was really important that I tried it for a month to see what my personal experience was and to tell you exactly how I felt about it. And what did I find being a vegan? Well, vegans shit more. Full stop. The more food you have in to make up the calories, the more you poo. That's number one. However, as an athlete, how did it make me feel? Well, in the early stages, I did lose a bit of weight. So if you want to lose some weight, it might be a good thing. But ultimately, as an athlete, what I wanted to do personally was, yes, have an opinion on it to tell you guys, but from a personal perspective, I was eating a really poor diet. So I would fall back onto looking at macros of a meal, so proteins, fats, and carbs, and see how that fit with the traditional outlook on how to eat for performance. So I was prioritizing protein and then the fats and carbohydrates in the quantities that I needed, but I really neglected the quality of the food that I was eating. So probably I was very deficient on micronutrients. And the point of this for me was then, if I turn to a plant-based diet, undoubtedly I will eat more healthy foods. And it will disrupt the pattern that I was in before there was unhealthy food based around macros or macronutrients. So then that disruption at the end of it, when I've seen the effects of a plant-based diet, would then affect me thereafter in a positive way. Now for me, this is a very personal thing. So it was to disrupt what I was currently doing so that I could be healthier. For other people, when they see this going on and people are advocates of plant-based diets for performance, they see it as a personal attack on meat eaters. And what they do is to try and find the science to disprove it and say, you're going to be deficient in, say, vitamin B12, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, and that's not going to be very good for you as an athlete. But these people saying that probably can't qualify because they're eating pies and fries and chips and all this crappy food without meeting their micronutrients, amount of fluid intake, and say vitamin D and all of those things that would help them as an athlete. They simply aren't bothered. All they're bothered about is defending their choice to eat meat by science against not eating meat. So anyway, at the end of it, yes, I did lose some weight. I felt fresher, but that was probably a byproduct from getting all of the micronutrients that I need, minus those things that vegans are commonly deficient in. So B12, iron, calcium, omega-3s. But on balance, I was much healthier. And after a month, I felt like it was a good thing to do to experience, but it was very, very difficult to keep thinking about it for the whole month. I mean, I have an amazing wife who's made amazing recipes that are plant-based for me, so I have to give credit to her for giving a lot of thought. The other time, it's actually easier if I go to, say, a service station for a lunch because I'm rushed, then it's easier to go for a plant-based option because there are less options. So it actually removes the options for you, but at the same time, you have to take a hit on whether you get enough protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Actually, carbohydrates are the one thing that you probably won't lack whilst following a plant food diet. Plant food diet. It's not like legal highs. A plant-based diet. So performance-wise, I felt great, but there was something lacking. I felt like I was a vampire that was only living off animal blood, and I was really craving some form of, whether it was a physical fullness or slow digestion of meat-based products, but there was something that I felt was lacking, and it took a lot of mental capacity. And that mental capacity then, if you commit so much to being one way and it's difficult mentally, then it's difficult for the rest of your life to stay on track. So you're spinning these plates, and inevitably, if you commit too much to one side, something else will drop off on the other. So it was pretty extreme. I'm sure that lots of people commit 100% to plant-based diets, but you have to consider what is the impact on your mind, your wellfulness, and all of the things around you, particularly family. So if you have a family, it might be difficult because you're cooking separate meals or you're enforcing this lifestyle choice on them as well. If, however, like my wife did, was very supportive, they can get on board as well, then it can share some of that burden on decision making around food. But ultimately, what you want is something that you can settle into that you know is super healthy and super good for performance, which ultimately is why you're watching this channel. So to cut a long story short, after a month, I did feel better, but the mental strain was not worth it. At the end of it though, I did find myself eating more colourful vegetables as a source of carbohydrate, but also micronutrients, which is the important key here, is that whichever camp you're in, you probably deficit in something unless you have it absolutely nailed down, which can take a massive amount of time. So if, like me, you are eating meat-based products, but probably considered that you're lacking in some micronutrients, then it might be worth trying a plant-based diet just to get you into the flow and recognizing what types of food you can eat outside of meat and bread, which is probably a staple for you right now. And then at the end of it, when you reintroduce meat, you'll be more mindful of the types of meat, the quality of the meat, and also what goes with them. So the vegetables on the sides, the healthy options that go to a full micronutrient dense meal and not just something that fits your macros. So regardless of the science to support either way, think about choosing a plant-based diet based on you. And I urge you very much to not comment too much if you're in an extreme black or white situation where you're a meat-based advocate or a plant-based advocate. Just spend time on the things that work for you, find a balance, and make sure that it is actually contributing to your health and performance. So it always goes health first, then performance. You can't be a high performer without being healthy. So micronutrients, making choices for you personally. And that's that for my take on vegan or plant-based diets for performance. Go and watch Netflix, take it with a pinch of salt. Don't listen to the meatheads that say you'll die if you don't eat meat. We don't know at this stage what the long-term effects of not having those vitamins and things that you might be lacking in plant-based, but suggestions say that you can perform well despite not having meat and dairy. And that's it. So until next time, eat well, perform well, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Make the booty bounce on the dance floor.